Okay, so now we're recording. Okay, so before I get into it all, thank you all for attending this May 31st Sagittarius full moon at 9:10 degrees Sagittarius. Yes, we've already been having a big conversation about the energy of what's going on with this time period. So I want to get this recording going so we can get it on here for anyone that comes back to re-listen to it, or people that miss the call that can't and don't want to go back and re-listen. Oh, great. We've got our magic 13 people. Perfect. And we'll have some more come in, I think. So the way that this energy is playing out is, in some ways, it almost feels spastic. Like we're being catapulted into all of these new moments of choice points. And it's happening because there's so many aspects, big aspects happening at the same time. And there's been a whole group of them leading up this week, and they've been activating everything with this moon. Let me find the big chart here. Where's my big transits? Is this the one? Oh, come on. Okay, here we go. All right. So this moon, like I said, it's like 9, almost at the end to 10 of Sagittarius. And we've had so much that's, coming up with it. It's being aspected in many different ways by a lot of the big planets. And those planets are aspecting each other. When that happens all at one time, you get a lot of change. And sometimes we can initiate the change, but so many times the change is happening around us, and then we end up being in reaction to into the changes. And I mean, as I've talked with a lot of different calls before, we really want to be in a place where we can always be in immediacy, so that we're initiating our own changes, rather than having to always have to be in response to everything out there in the world of form changing. It doesn't mean that it's always happening in a reciprocity. We're not separate from the outer world of form. At the same time, though, if we're deeply immersed in our own heart and the cosmic heart of God, and we are in oneness flow, we're able to create the change that we need to get us from point A to point B, or to shift our own reality without being moved by the external world. That's really kind of what's happening right now in a lot of ways. And like for you, Janice, with your story, I would imagine to just meet someone really quick, have a quick flame in the fire, relationship come about, whether it romanticizes or not, deeply or not. I mean, for someone to just buy you a car out of the blue is crazy. And that's Jupiter kicking in with stuff. As a matter of fact, let me go to the part of the chart where I was going to discuss that a while ago. So Jupiter has been going through Cancer. Cancer is really, it's the house and home. It's the nurturing. It's the emotional body, individually and collectively. So we're all getting hit by it. I mean, everybody on the planet. We're getting activated by these things. And Jupiter right now is at 24 degrees on the 31st here of May. But the other thing happening is in Cancer, it's a very active Cancer. Mercury is going to come into Cancer tomorrow on the 1st. So it's not really activating now, but it's going to start giving us a lot of communication around what we've been feeling and being activated starting tomorrow. And that's a perfect timing, the fact that this moon's going on right now. But the other big thing that's happening in Cancer is the fact that we have 3 feeling, valuing energies. We've got Venus, Psyche, which is the higher version of Venus, more of a divine feminine aspect, and Hygeia. Hygeia is really about a healing, divine feminine kind of energy, but it's more structured healing. It's more anyway. But all of those things are within 3 degrees, 13 to 15 degrees of Cancer, and they're sitting basically in the Sirius star system. I mean, they're right at Sirius is at 14 and 25 of Cancer, and so anybody that's ever really worked with the Sirians or felt like you had that as an activation point, Psyche sitting in the middle of it, Venus is just right past it. So you've got those energies melding together. So you've got really 3 feminine energies right in the midpoint of Cancer at the same time that Jupiter is over in where it is, and it's like it's blowing up the last parts of Cancer all the way through. Let me see, Jupiter is in Cancer all the way through the end of June. So this whole next month, you're going to see a ramp up of those things. The other thing that's happening in this month of June coming up, and it's why this moon is so important, which is activating it. Mercury enters Cancer. So Mercury is going to come across Asbolus, which is about 4 degrees. Asbolus is one of the centaurs. It really blows up the energy. It expands energy. It's kind of like Jupiter on steroids, except it's doing it from a centaur standpoint. So it can do it from a place of wounding, and again, it's in Cancer. So if it's hitting anything in your own chart, that may be what's activating. And, for Joyce, Jupiter may have been activating something in Cancer, obviously, that created, a flashpoint, because it really is a flashpoint. Because, I mean, it's like that particular relationship may not be able to evolve into something that's, long-term sustainable, and yet it's like a big wake up. It's like, oh wow, it's like the universe wanted to gift you a vehicle, and it did it through this person. Where it goes in the future, I mean, who knows? And don't attach to the world of form. I mean, it may be something where who knows how you'll play it out. We look forward to seeing how that works. I mean, sometimes the dynamic gets difficult, and that's specifically what's happening with this energy. It's a very challenging energy because it's really pushing the boundaries on how we see ourselves, how we value ourselves, and anything that's coming in is a reflection. It's always a reflection, but it's a big reflection right now of how we can be met by the external world. We're always meeting ourselves internally, but the more we shift internally, the more we can receive from what we're perceiving to be out there. And sometimes it is shocking. It comes from left field, and it doesn't always have to be something in the world of materiality. It can be an internal event. The fact that this is in Cancer and happening in Cancer, I think a lot of this is going to be internal shifting, and that's an important point of distinction I want to really focus in, because Mercury is going to be going through Cancer all the way through. Okay, where are you doing? Oh, here it goes. The spreadsheet was taking a little bit of time. It's going to be in Cancer all the way through August the 9th. The reason it's in that sign so long is because we have the retrograde in Cancer. The retrograde is going to be stationing retrograde all toward the end of this month, and exactly go retrograde on the 29th. As it starts to slow up, it's going to do that around the middle of the month, like 15th to 16th. It's going to start slowing down to like a degree a day, and as it does that, it's going to be coming in contact with Psyche and Hygeia. Psyche and Hygeia are traveling together within a degree or two, which means they're working together. Venus is already, going to be moved out by the 13th. And it's going to aspect Jupiter coming up exactly on the 9th. And a lot of the astrologers have talked about that being an absolute sweet point with being able to be met by the universe. Venus on Jupiter in Cancer, I mean, you can end up with a new home. You can end up with a whole new way of nurturing yourself. You can end up with, I don't know, who knows, massages for a lifetime. I mean, there's no telling how that could end up. The other thing that's interesting is that's happening right between the two fixed stars, Pollux and Procyon. Those are actually the two stars that are known as the twins in Gemini. And you may say, well, why are those stars in the sign of Cancer? Well, technically, they're at the end of the sign of Gemini when you look at the actual sun placement in the sky. This goes back to the original sidereal astrology that I've talked with you guys about before, because Cancer really doesn't start until about 27 degrees of Cancer in the tropical zodiac, which is most of what Western astrology is writing. But the fact that this is happening at the end of the twins in the actual sun, sign, kind of to me is speaking to who are we as the twin version of ourselves. There's our presence here in physicality in this incarnation. There's also the presence that is the eternal self that's always omnipresent with the all that is, God, however you want to call that. The fact that Jupiter is meeting Venus right on those twins, which is technically in Gemini, or at the end of Cancer, depending on how you want to interpret the energy. And I think both are valid. You could have sidereal astrologers that talk about it just from the standpoint of Gemini, but obviously, if you're looking at it through Western eyes, it's at the end of Cancer, which is our nurturing world and environment. I think both things are true. That's the other thing I want to kind of just make a statement about. Half the world, United States, Europe, I think Australia, Western cultures are going through the tropical zodiac, and that's what most people are conditioned with. If you look at Eastern cultures, I think Japan really kind of goes in those too, but mainly China, Indonesia, India, they're all Vedic astrology observations, and they are looking more at the sidereal. They also have different doshas and ways of understanding the way that the energy works, and also with the evolution of soul and the way they explain things. The point is, though, both things are happening. I think that sidereal observations through Eastern philosophy gives us more soul growth, whereas the tropical zodiac, to me, was created by the West, and this goes back, a couple millennia as well. I mean, astrology's been around for tens of thousands of years, but as far as the function of tropical, you're probably talking about, I think, 3,000 to 5,000. I don't remember exactly. I've read about it, but my brain just can't hold some of these details. But the point is, we've got Venus and Jupiter, Hygiea and Psyche, and Mercury all working deeply in Cancer. And these are divine feminine energies. They're coming together. And when Mercury comes down here, it's gonna cross over Psyche, which is a higher function of Venus, Hygiea, which is healing energies. And when that happens, they're going to meet up with the moon again on the 16th. The moon moves really fast. The moon basically moves through a sign within about 2 days, sometimes 2.5 days, depending on where it's at in the actual in the orbit. But the fact that Mercury is going to turn retrograde, it's not going to move far away from Psyche and Hygiea during this whole time period with its retrograde. And when it goes retrograde, it's going to be almost right back on Psyche and Hygeia again at the end of the month on the 29th. The other thing that's interesting about that time period is the 29th of June is the full moon in Capricorn. The sun is going to be in Cancer, creating the moon in Capricorn. Also on that day, it's the last day of Jupiter in Capricorn or in Cancer before it goes into Leo. That's going to be a huge energetic shift. So for that last week of June, we're going to be in a major Mercury retrograde station, because it's only going to move 2 degrees like for 10 days. And then it's going to sit at that degree for 5 days and then slowly move backwards while Jupiter is in the anaretic degree of Cancer. So all these astrologers talk about the anaretic degrees, how it can bring a lot of challenges. I mean, for Jupiter to do that, it's really, really blowing up stuff. It could be challenging endings on relationships. I mean, Cancer is how you love, what you love. I mean, it can, it really could, because Venus actually leaves on the 13th. So Venus will have already gone into Leo. But we're going to be reevaluating how we love and what we love. And it's going to cross over with Jupiter on June the 9th. So you've got all these major conjunctions of feminine signs on Jupiter and Mercury. So you've got communication, all this stuff's going on. So we're going into the month of July with Mercury retrograde. So when that's happening, it's going to come back across Hygeia, back across Psyche, and it's going to cross Waldemoth Lilith, which is one of the Liliths that most astrologers don't bother with. But that's really hitting kind of like the more suppressed sexual expressions. So the fact that Mercury's going backwards, I think a lot of things, and this is in Cancer, so it really is going to affect integration of sexual expression with people, again, individually and collectively. I think this is going to create more discussion around all the child pedophilia stuff, all the sex trafficking, all that kind of stuff. At the same time, the sun is still in Cancer. Mercury is going to come across that sun on the 12th of July. At the same time it does, 2 days later, it's going to create the new moon in Cancer on July the 14th. So at the same time that's happening, Psyche, Hygeia, and Binor, one of the centaurs, are traveling out of Cancer and into Leo. There's so much movement of energy that's happening in Cancer. And not to be left out, on the 29th, I forgot that one, the same day we had the full moon in Capricorn, and Hygeia and Psyche and Mercury on top of each other, and Jupiter leaving. Jupiter leaves Cancer, and Priapus, which is the moon's perigee, the closest point to the moon, it represents the divine feminine or the divine masculine, in my observation and through my readings and interpretations, where Lilith represents the higher divine feminine of expression. Priapus is the opposite point, the masculine. It's going to enter Cancer. When it does, it's going to be approaching the Mercury trajectory, but Mercury then turns direct and they don't touch each other. But Priapus also goes in for its own retrograde in Cancer during the eclipses in the middle of August. And the fact you have the divine masculine energy going retrograde and Mercury going retrograde all in Cancer, we're really dealing with our internal emotional expression, how we express, and not just with others, but also with ourselves. I really feel like this is an internal event. Especially since, you've got these divine feminine energies acting with Mercury before it goes retrograde. Now, when it meets the sun, in retrograde, it's going to light that all up on the July 14th new moon. New moons are creating additional new energies. I think that's going to be a big portal for, and especially since it's in Cancer, really finding a new way to communicate, not just with others around us, but also internally with God, with Spirit, and however you perceive that. At that point, Jupiter is going to be in Leo. It's going to really be expressing itself in kind of like that. How do you express yourself out in the world as a king? How do you go into more of a royal nature? And Venus is going to be going through Leo all during that time period, all the way through July the 9th. So you've got that Venusian energy, really, I think, accessing us there in Leo, how to be out in the world. Now, this Mercury retrograde is not going to go a lot of degrees. It just goes from like 26 degrees back to 16, so it's only going to retrograde 10 degrees. So it's really tight, but it's going to make the retrograde stations very long periods. When it goes direct on the 23rd of July, it will have sat on that degree for 7 days. I mean, this is really going to, anytime you have a station that stays that long, it really wants to just go into your core. And of course, this is all about communication, individual and collective communication. So on the outer world stage, the United States is a Cancer nation. That's, where the ascendant is. It's where we've got all this energy going. And all of these communication issues, again, this is the whole month of July and August. Just watch what happens with, our country and the way we communicate with other people, how we communicate internally, the dialogue that happens between us as citizens of the United States with each other. I mean, it could be articulated in so many vast ways. And the function, again, Jude always talks about form following function. So if we're in lower function with regards to communication, the form is going to follow lower form. I mean, that's just the way it works. Everything is frequential. It's all a frequency. The other thing about this, though, when Mercury stations direct, it's going to be at 16 of Cancer. That's only a degree and a half away from the Sirius star system, which I mentioned a while ago. Not to be left out, here's the Judith asteroid at 1451 sitting in the Sirius star system in my natal chart. I didn't even notice the asteroids. And Judith is the progression of Judith is sitting next to my name at 27 and 28 Cancer, all being activated by it. You can't make this stuff up. That's so funny. And my hometown, where I'm at right now, is at 20 degrees. The asteroids matter in these things, I'm telling you. Magdalena, the asteroid Magdalena, is right there at Sirius next to Judith. So the symbology of that's just really pretty wild. The asteroid Pamela is with Nikola, like Nikola Tesla, all on my midheaven. I guess that's what I'm talking about, these things. Just a little side note. But I mean, if you ever do get an astrological reading from someone, throw names of people that are meaningful in your life in there, and just ask people, ask the astrologer where these things are falling for you. So anyway, but that's why Cancer, this particular moon, is so important right now, and what it's activating for the next 2 to 3 months. And again, I mean, the moon is not in Cancer. The full moon is actually in Sagittarius. Another dynamic with this is that the sun is in Gemini, and it's creating the moon in Sagittarius. So at 10 degrees, the sun being at 10 degrees today, and it's going to move a degree a day, basically. It is going to be, it's semi-sextiling, which is a 30-degree aspect to that Psyche Venus Hygeia conjunction in Cancer. So it's minor adjusting energies. So the sun, which is creating that moon, is activating in a light way all of that divine feminine energy for us, as it continually moves. The other thing that is also happening is Uranus and Sedna and Ceres. Ceres is, it's one of the divine energies, goddess energies, and it rules grains. It rules home and hearth energy as well. It's semi-sextiling Mercury. It moves a little faster. Uranus is very slow though, so you're going to have some of those aspects. Let me go back into Taurus. I'm trying to remember something that was in Taurus. Yeah, that's what I forgot. So the other thing that's really activating change with all this is Mars. Mars right now is at 9 degrees of Taurus here on the 31st. So it is in an exact semi-sextile to the sun. It's creating the moon. It's in a sextile, kind of wide, to Psyche and all of that. It will catch up with Psyche and Hygeia within the next week. So, but Mars is creating that action in a very grounded Earth sign of Taurus. And the fact that Mercury is in Cancer and all the others are in Cancer, it's going to create action. But again, it's sextiling action. So that's movement. It's opportunity aspects. Trines are flowing aspects. Those are 90 degrees. But I mean, this is basically 60-degree energy. I'm sorry, the trine is 120 degrees. But it's a very workable aspect, bringing action to in for us. The other thing that's happening too in Taurus is the Lilith asteroid. So it's coming across and sextiling everything in Cancer as well. So I would say that also assists us with divine feminine energy to work with that. Okay, so that's basically the Cancer part. Let me go into the actual trining energy. Let me remember what was happening with all those. Yeah, this is what I was looking at last night, and I've talked about this before. So, with all this Cancer energy and what's happening, Cancer is a water sign. It's trining Scorpio and Pisces, the other water signs. Scorpio, again, it's that, the part of ourselves. It's sexual expression, secrets. I mean, all sorts of, energy that we're trying to deal with, and with the emotional body that is more secretive or hidden aspects. Pisces, of course, represents, more of the, not necessarily religious, but I mean, religious stuff falls in it, but religion is more structured. But Pisces really represents, in its highest form, oceanic presence. And so all of that energy is flowing. What we also have is the North Node going backwards in Pisces. It's going to finish that year-and-a-half journey coming up. Let me see, on the 26th of July, and it's in these last 4 degrees of Pisces, and the nodes always go backwards, so it's kind of like a backwards journey. But all of these divine feminine signs have been trining the North Node, and that was already going on through the whole month of May and even part of April. So Mercury is going to aspect the node in 3 days or 4 days, I guess. And so what that means is we're going to have communication individually and collectively regarding where we're going with our futures. It will also come across Australia around like the 7th or 8th of the month, and that's going to give us a lot of communication with regards to more structured healing. Estrella really kind of represents, to me, kind of like a healing goddess with regards to more, how shall I say, I guess kind of structured healing in a way. It's just one of the many asteroids that's, part of the healing stuff. But so, what else was there that I had seen? Oh, yes. Okay. So this is trining energy. Jupiter's at the end of Cancer. Narcissus Centaur is at the end of Scorpio, retrograding backwards. It's coming up to meet Jupiter. When Jupiter and Venus are together on the 9th, they're basically going to be sitting within a degree of Narcissus as a Centaur. So what we're going to have is a huge review of narcissistic behavior, conscious and unconscious, getting activated by Jupiter. Jupiter blows everything up. Trining energy, though, is good. It's flowing energy, so that can speak well. At least it's not in a square. Squares would be pretty rough. But, the fact that you've got Venus and Jupiter there with the narcissistic review, again, reviewing energy retrogrades, that's going to hopefully mean that we've got softening or dissolving, disintegration of narcissistic patterning. Wouldn't that be great if people that are around the world that are expressing themselves through really deep narcissistic behaviors, wouldn't it be great if Jupiter and Venus were to soften some of that and assist it in breaking down? Now, I don't know if it's going to work that way. We'll see. The other part that's playing with that is that as Narcissus goes backwards, it's approaching the Nessus Centaur and Terran Hiawatha that Pam Gregory talks about at 22 and 24 degrees of Pisces. Again, that's trine flowing energy. So Jupiter and Venus are trining all of that. So the reason I think this is so important is the fact we've got all this healing energy in Cancer, and the Jupiter and Venus are going to be aspecting within the next week to 2 weeks the Narcissus retrograde as well as the Nessus, which is abuse. That is in Pisces. So you've got spiritual abuse, you've got all sorts of abuse with the way that people, it's every kind of abuse, sexual. Again, Pisces is also kind of secretive stuff. Pisces is the part of the unconscious psyche that doesn't want to be owned. And again, this is individual and collective as well. So these are huge themes that are playing out. Let me see. The other part to this, is the North Node is going backwards at the beginning of Pisces. It is trining Haumea. Haumea, as Pam Gregory and different ones talk about, it births from nothing. You can birth from yourself. It's like Haumea is sitting in the Shapley attractor. The Shapley attractor is at the beginning of Scorpio. That's scorpionic energy. It is another cosmic point. You've got the galactic center that I've talked about several times. You've got the supergalactic center. You have the great attractor. That's another one in Sagittarius. But this is in Scorpio, the Shapley attractor. Philip Sedgwick, an astrologer out in Arizona, has talked about all four of those items and how they activate, and how they function. Some people think they're more like black holes, cosmic black holes, where you might have an energy that just sucks you in. The fact that Haumea is there in Scorpio, I think, and again, trining with the North Node is going to be working with us, giving us cosmic awareness on how to birth with our future, as it were. And of course, Mercury is going to be meeting up with that trine this week. I mean, it crosses over. When Mercury meets as Bolus, of course, that blows things up. And it kind of, think about it as a Jupiter expansion, but it's doing it from a Centaur aspect. So I think it can be a healing thing, especially since it's all flowing energy. Again, I mean, it's a lot of complex energies. So, yeah, I guess that's most of the things I want to talk about there. The other thing here's another part I didn't hit on this. So I've talked about the oscillating Lilith path, which is the opposition of Priapus, which is divine masculine. Oscillating Lilith is divine feminine. And she's been going back and forth between Scorpio and Sagittarius now for the last couple of years, and really pulling out anything that's deeply hidden, needs to be worked with. She's still coming back into Scorpio. She's just dipped back into Scorpio, going over the Narcissus Centaur that's retrograded and turned direct on the 23rd, just a week ago. And then she goes back into Sagittarius on the 25th. So that's already happened. And that is the final time that we will have oscillating Lilith in Scorpio. So we've just passed it this week. The fact that Narcissus was there, to me, it's like the ending of the divine feminine working with a retrograde narcissistic observation. And again, if you apply that and look at all of humanity, and you look at narcissists around the world, I think because we're done with that, hopefully we've shifted enough of the collective that we don't have to go through that too much more. But what's going to take its place coming up, well, it doesn't take its place. The Tesla asteroid is retrograding. It's coming back, and it's going to merge with the Narcissus Centaur. So I find that interesting, considering you have, Tesla as a car. You have Tesla as Nikola Tesla energy. It's almost interesting that you'd have Nikola Tesla energy merging with narcissistic stuff, and of course asteroids. I mean, they say asteroids don't really have a lot of power and energy, but I mean, the fact that this is going to be within a degree, I find it interesting. So we'll see if you have anything happening with the Tesla cars and stuff like that as it comes in. It's going to be there before Tesla goes direct on the 21st of July. Again, I'll just bring it up just from that standpoint. The Clotho fate, there's three fates: Clotho, Atropos, and Lachesis. Lachesis is the cutter of time. Clotho, I think, is I'm trying to remember if it's the path. Anyway, but it's right there playing out with Narcissus and Tesla at the end of Scorpio. So I think there's going to be a lot of fated things happening, since Clotho is one of the fates at the end of Scorpio. So there could be a lot of fated shifts with narcissistic behaviors. Again, it's all retrograde, and Narcissus does not turn direct until August the 4th, right before all the eclipses happen. So again, I mean, this can kind of explain why we're in this. It's a crucible. It lasts for months. And the other part to that too is this Mercury retrograde is trining all of those things I just mentioned. So it's going to come back and forth, going across it. So it's going to go across the narcissistic tendencies, the Nessus and abuse patterns. Pamela, as an asteroid, is sitting on Terran Hiawatha during the month of July. It's so interesting that, she's been talking about, that dwarf planet for quite a while now. She obviously has, a very deep connection to it. and that's why I could make a case for anyway. The asteroid Pamela is sitting with it. You can't make this stuff up. So, okay, so that's flowing energies. The next thing I want to hit, the sextiling energies. So we've had these moons. The two moons earlier this month were the first moon was in Scorpio. That's what it was. I was messed up a while ago. The sun was in Taurus, but the moon was in Scorpio, and it was at 10 and 11 degrees. So then the next moon was a new moon, and it was created in Taurus. We did that, of course, on the 16th, 2 weeks ago. That moon was huge because Mercury and the sun cazimied right before the moon was created. So you had communication, you had the sun of expression, you also had series of nurturing, all sitting in that moon together in Taurus. And so then we have this moon in Sagittarius. It's the next step of shifting, our perception of reality, and I think it's in the outer world of form. So the other thing we kind of talked about in the middle of the call earlier, or at the beginning before we recorded, was that we almost feel like we're in a Mercury retrograde already. I mean, it's like everything feels like it's being thrown up in the air, and it really is. And part of that's the way that Uranus is playing in. Part of it is the way that Pluto, I haven't even hit Pluto yet. There's something else I wanted to hit on the sextiles. Okay, so the South Node is in Virgo. Okay, that's going to hit up in one of the other ones. Right, let me wait and get. I'll come back to that. Put that on hold. The next thing I want to get into is the squaring energy. All of this action that's happening in Cancer that I've just talked about, and I know I'm not talking about this moon right now at the moment, but I'm focused on this Cancer stuff because that really is changing the dynamic of how we feel emotionally, how we're connecting with people, and how we're being activated. And all of these items are squaring everything in the existence of Aries. We've got all this energy that's been happening in Aries since the beginning of the year. Neptune entered, Saturn entered, and then we've talked about how that's the beginning of a 160-year cycle of Neptune, 29 years of Saturn of structure. Neptune has made its way to 4 degrees of Aries, and Saturn's up to 12 at the time of this moon. Pallas Athena is sitting right there, 2 degrees away from Saturn. Pallas Athena is bringing justice. It's bringing, I think, a balanced way of looking at that structure in Aries, how we build our I am presence. Vesta is also in between all of that. So you've got a stellium of all that energy. You also have Eris and Chiron at the end of Aries. Chiron has just hit the 29th degree of Aries. My sun is at 2847, so Chiron's been sitting in it for quite a while. But between now and the 19th of June, Chiron is sitting at 29 Aries. That is an energetic point of an I am presence. Chiron is sitting there to bring healing. Chiron is also at that degree probably going to, because of the way the energy is playing out, feel very challenging for people's wounds in how they perceive themselves here. And I think you're going to have a lot of challenges with healing and death and perception of I am presence for the next 3 weeks because of Chiron being there. Now, when Chiron enters Taurus on the 19th, it will shift into a whole other sign. and it will. I'm trying to remember if it comes back. I think it comes back in Aries at the end of the year for a little bit. But what's going to happen is Jupiter is approaching it as a square, but it doesn't really get to it. It's still like, within 4 or 5 degrees away. But by the 19th, it is within, like 2 or 3 degrees to it. So, coming up toward the summer solstice with Jupiter squaring that Chiron, even with 3 degrees, I think it's going to, both of them close to analytic degrees is going to be a big shift with people. So, let me see, what else was there that I was going to hit on squares? There's not a lot happening in Capricorn, so I think most of that's, I'm not going to hit anything there. What's the other thing I wanted to go into? Okay, so let's go into the squares of Sagittarius with the moon. So Eros is the divine masculine energy. It has met up with the south node right now. And interestingly enough, the Judith asteroid is sitting in the middle of it. So perhaps she's channeling to us from the past, all these kind of energetic divine masculine things. And it's not far from an aspect, but it is squaring Clotho of fate. And Clotho is one of those that's weaving time. And that's also squaring Uranus and Sedna. So probably a lot of shocking things could be coming, like from our past, individually and collectively. And then the moon moves fast. So the moon has crossed those squares before coming direct. So, I mean, the moon's actively involved in it. But the other thing that's interesting with Sagittarius, I didn't see this a while ago, the moon is literally in the path of the oscillating Lilith path. So it's very much being infused with divine feminine energy. I mean, it's like really bathing us in all of that. It's also happening direct right before going into the great attractor. That actually happens. Actually, it's probably already happened now, because on the 31st, the moon is still already at 20 degrees. I mean, it's literally sitting in that path. It will then, on the 1st, tomorrow, be sitting in the galactic center. So I find that very interesting that the exact moment that this full moon is created, it's going to go through 2 galactic points. So again, cosmic downloads, major shifts with, I think, how we perceive ourselves as an aspect of God, and how we can work with other, people around us. Let me see. The other thing that I want to hit and discuss is the trining energies. I'm trying to remember if there was a trine. Yep, there was. Okay, so the moon is full. Again, the moon moves fast, 2 days through a sign. So as it's hitting the great attractor, as it's hitting the galactic center tomorrow, actually more like right now, it is trining Neptune, it's trining Vesta, it's trining Pallas Athena, it's trining Saturn. That all happened in the morning. When it's in the galactic center on the 1st tomorrow, it's going to be trining Eris and Chiron. So this moon is very much working with all that Aries I am presence energy, individually and collectively, so we can cosmically use Eris of discord, its highest function, but also Chiron and healing energy. And the fact that Chiron and Eris have basically been sitting at the last part of Aries, they've been trying in the galactic center really for the last couple of years. So I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but it's hard to remember what I've discussed in parts of these or not. Anyway, so that's the flowing energy of all of those aspects. The other part I wanted to discuss on this too, and sextiling energy. The other reason this moon is really getting activated in a good way is that the moon is exactly sextiling Juno, which is just about 5 degrees away from Pluto. So it's already passed through Pluto as it was approaching its fullness. And so it's gotten hit with Pluto and Juno in a very positive way, creating new transformative energies with partnerships, marriages, business, all that. It's going to do that and hit Juno right before Juno goes retrograde on the 8th, just coming up. Pluto has already gone retrograde, so we're reviewing how we go through death and rebirth processes, how we go through transformation. Again, Pluto just, everything it touches just really shifts it. But the fact that Juno is dancing with Pluto, all relationships are going through death and rebirth. Every single type of relationship. Even the relationship with yourself is going through death and rebirth. A tropos of fate, which is cutter of time, has passed across Pluto and Juno. It's now going to retrograde on the 19th. It's going to come back and meet up. But it's going to, let me see, it does cross back over Pluto, but Juno is going to be back over in Capricorn before it gets up to it. But the point is, you're going to have a lot of fated shifting and transformation in between now and when the eclipses come along in August. And I'm not going to go into the eclipses too much because I've already gone almost an hour just talking about stuff with the way this moon is working. The point is, this full moon, normally full moons are releases. So as it's sextiling Pluto and Juno, it could be fateful, atropos, cutting a time, fateful shifts in transformation with relationships, marriages, what have you. Again, this full moon is sitting in the oscillating Lilith direct path with the galactic center and the great attractor. Huge amounts of energy. I mean, you can't make this up, the fact that these things are all sitting on top of each other. It will also sextile Cheroklo, which is coming up probably by tomorrow. It'll be on Cheroklo, which is the wife of Chiron. So you've got, and it stations retrograde actually today on the 31st. Just noticed that. So lots of energy, healing energy, shifting energy. It's also going to sextile the Jung asteroid and the Nikola Tesla asteroid, which are actually both trining each other. Oh, that's interesting. So, again, that's just asteroids, but yeah. So, I know that's a lot to take in. Again, I just look at the chart and I read it and see what's there. Let me see if anything comes out in the oppositions really quick. Where is Gemini Sag? Okay, here we are. I haven't progressed. Okay. As far as opposition, yeah, so the sun has just met up with Uranus and everything as it's creating this moon in Sagittarius. So it's kind of far. I mean, it's an 8-degree orb from that. I would say it could be a light influence, Uranian energy. So that would be like an 8-degree opposition to the moon. But the moon moves fast. So the moon, even just yesterday, was on Uranus. So I do think that Uranus has created an opposition to this moon, and it has absolutely had been in effect. Clotho is in opposition to Uranus. There may be a lot of fated, shocking shifts. I mean, again, this is a lot of energy. I know y'all are probably just like, oh my God, what have I just listened to? It's a lot. Now, again, the sun is also going to cross Priapus, the moon perigee, and the divine masculine energy as it creates the new moon on June the 14th, which will be coming up for our next call. So the sun really is going to be working with our emotional expression for quite a while. And then, of course, it's going to enter Cancer on the 21st on the summer solstice. So then the sun will be approaching and working with us directly with the emotional body. Yeah. I know that's been a lot, and I appreciate your patience with taking it all in. Yeah, so I hope that hasn't been too much. The other thing that I wanted to, no, I don't want the quincunxes. Let me go to the end. Need my whole, okay. Let me get the whole sky up here. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to notate, and I kind of hinted on it, talked about it a bit earlier. This moon, as it makes in the sky from the aspect of Western astrology, is in Sagittarius, the tropical chart. If you look at the actual sidereal astrology, it's actually taking place in Scorpio, and it's on the Antares star system. And it's not far from where the Ophiuchus star system begins, which is basically at the Great Attractor. So if you look at it through deeper esoteric understandings of the stars in the sky, we're really in deep presence of Scorpio, but then the moon is going through Ophiuchus, and it's hitting all of the stars in Ophiuchus, including Rasa Hawa, which is the serpent, head of the serpent, the snake, but also the Great Attractor and the galactic center. So it's the other reason why I feel like this moon is really taking us on a deep dive. Again, full moons are releasing, but the fact it's sitting with the oscillating Lilith points, with a path, and I've talked about that, in several videos before. And oscillating Lilith actually snakes itself across the sky. So I think the symbolism of that is really amazing, since it's snaking across Ophiuchus, which is basically more like the serpent energy. And Ophiuchus is the constellation, the 13th constellation, that kind of got, knocked out and nobody wants to look at, but it's still there, even though it's not acknowledged. Okay. I think that's enough. I think I've probably taken you all down so many avenues, your brains are probably mush. But in answer to your questions, that's why everything is so intense right now. There are so many exact conjunctions and squares and sextiles and trines of all the main planetary bodies, which is creating a lot of movement. And so depending on where you are, look at your own life and feel into it, see what feels accurate for you, and make any observations for yourself in that way. And so, yeah. So if you can, go ahead and let's get still and go find your quiet place, and we're gonna get still and kind of go into do our meditation work. Oh, I'm exhausted. Imagine how exhausted from hearing all of that. It's a lot. And the reason we feel like Mercury retrograde is because everything's happening so much. But it's actually leading us up to a retrograde that's happening next month, going into July. And it's going to be an internal retrograde because it's happening in Cancer. Again, it's going to shift everything individually and collectively, especially the United States is going to be affected by this Mercury retrograde more than we have by anyone in quite a long time. And it's also happening with this 250-year anniversary of the United States. I mean, we're really being asked to re-look at and evaluate the very core of who we are, individually and collectively, as Americans, as a nation, but also as humans, as cosmic beings, as awareness. I mean, it's a big deal. So, okay. All right, well, let's just get really still and go in. So I don't know if I'll come back to articulate it all, but as I've done for so many of the sessions, really just imagine all this energy going in and clearing out all of your cellular structure, the skeletal structures, lymphatic systems, the organs, the circulatory systems, all of it. I mean, just sit there and imagine going through a cellular renewal, really just going back to the divine blueprint. And yeah. Okay, so just get still and go deep dive.